So, my next question for you guys, did you learn anything, or what did you learn during your MBA? I kind of have to grill this question on you first.
Well, I'm currently still there.
Yes, that's why I'm asking you, be the first one. Did you learn anything? I'll be honest.
So, I think that's one of the things I've been most surprised by is even after working, albeit only for 3 years, I walk into my classroom every day, and at the end of the day, I walk out and I realize I have learned so much today. And it comes really learning in all different types of spaces. And I imagine what I see as learning right now will be very different. 10 years out, you might realize you learned something else and you never even realized that you have learned it. Obviously, the very, very tangible things are I'm learning finance. I never studied finance before, and I'm learning the basics of finance. I'm learning the basics of operations, of marketing. So you're learning the very just straightforward tactical knowledge. So that definitely is learning. I think that's the original even argument of the MBA. More than that, though, I think the two things that you learn, particularly from my perspective at Harvard Business School, are one, you are learning essentially a proxy for experience. Whether or not it's as valuable as actual experience is debatable, but instead of those gray hairs, though I do have many, we do the case studies, and you're reading about 3 or 4 or 2 to 3 businesses a day, and you're discussing them. And tomorrow you're reading about 2 or 3 businesses a day dealing with a business problem and how they resolved it. And you do that same thing over and over and over and over again. So when you're actually confronted with something like, oh, this kind of reminds me of GE in the 80s. How do they resolve this? But, and that's useful, but I would say for me, the most valuable thing that I'm learning are actually the perspectives of the peers in my classroom. So I'm in a classroom with 90 students every day. And we've all read the exact same story. We've all read about GE over the past 40 years. And during that 80-minute class, most of us will speak, and most of us will present an argument or an opinion about that same story that we've read. And regardless of how that case actually ended up, I've got to hear 89 different opinions about what they took away from that class. And that's, I think, the biggest thing. For me, before I got an MBA, I was presented with a problem at my consulting firm, and I was like, okay, I can think of 1 or 2 different ways to solve this, and we'll just go with that. And now every single day I sit in my class and I hear there are 89 different opinions that are totally different than mine, that I hadn't even considered viewing it that way. And I hear that over and over again, so now I hope when I leave my MBA and I'm presented with other problems, I'm much more able to think of different ways to solve a problem than I ever could have beforehand. And for me, that, outside of all the financial knowledge and the operations knowledge and the marketing, to me, learning those different perspectives of how to approach a problem and how to present that argument, for me, are the most valuable things that I think I'm learning now, that you should probably ask me again in 5 years.